tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with another Reign After Show. It's Keetin, Marchi.
Oh, you introduced me. I didn't even have to do it on my own. Thank you.
I'm just getting right to it.
Jumping
I'm Phil Svitek. I'll let you introduce our guests.
Oh.
You were crushing. Did you know? If you watched last episode, she wrote a love poem. So I figured this is a good start.
To who exactly?
To Lord Bothwell.
No,
Oh,
I
yes.
did not. No.
What do you mean you didn't?
I did not. No, and it was so funny. I was leaving today, and I was like, oh my god, if there's any episode you watched for reference, it was last week's episode. And I was telling my roommates, I'm like, I'm gonna be so embarrassed to meet this guy. Like, I literally was just like, oh, I love him. Like, probably the most unprofessional thing. But I'm so happy.
That is amazing. Do you have it on a piece of paper for me today?
You know, I will send it
You
to
can
you.
just send it to me. Send it to me.
I will send it to you. You guys will send it to him over Twitter, right?
Yeah.
One line at a time.
Oh yeah,
124
please.
characters
Every
at a
day.
time. Yeah.
Like, send
every
me
day, just
a
a
line.
little
Yeah.
piece of the love
Oh, I
poem.
love this.
Oh, this is great.
They used to take their time back in the day. That's Bothwell's pace. Yeah.
I absolutely love it. So yeah, we have Lord Bothwell in the house.
Hey guys.
Adam and Erika, who's one of the writers
Of this episode.
of this episode,
Indeed.
actually.
And unfortunately, my writing partner Bo couldn't make it, so I'm representing for both of us.
We're so happy to have you. So thank you, and
Glad to be here.
this will just force him to have to make this up to us and come another time. So
Deal.
this is great. And usually when the writers come in, they bring one of you awesome stars. So I'm not mad about it.
Oh great. Neither am I. That's brilliant. Thanks for having us.
Where can we follow you guys on social media, just so we can throw that out there right away? And
I'm on Twitter at Griffin, GRYPHON Medal, and on Instagram at Erika Lippoldt.
I was like, I want you to explain that Twitter handle.
Yes. We all want you to explain.
It's a pretty dumb story. When I was in high school, I had an electric guitar, and the model's name was Griffin. And I was just looking around for a name for my Twitter handle, like, that's it.
Awesome.
And your social media follow.
Twitter, Croasdell, just my name, initial and last name, and then Instagram at Adam Croasdell.
Easy.
Easy enough.
And you guys can follow me all over the interwebs at Keetin Marchi. I try to keep it easy as well, even though my name is weird. So where can we follow you?
Just at AFTERBUZZ TV.
Great.
And shout out to at Reign Writers.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course.
They're our favorites.
Amazing.
But what an episode, and we've got lots to discuss, so we'll sort of get right into it, and I'm sure we'll meander at times, but nonetheless, I'm excited for the discussion. Before we dive into sort of the meat of the episode, let's start with England, because quite a shift here in terms of Elizabeth really sets her sight in terms of being, a pioneer, if you will. And, I mean, what did you guys think of it? I mean, I guess let's start with you, Keetin. Your overall reaction in terms of this storyline?
Well, historically, this is something that Elizabeth I was a huge part of expanding England and kind of conquering new lands and stuff. So I'm really happy that you guys are now kind of diving into that side of Elizabeth, because it's one of the things that really made her such an amazing monarch. And I love you guys gave us another sexy man this week.
It's what we do.
Is that the description in the script? John Hawkins, sexy man enters.
He's like a hot version of John Smith. Like the real life sexy version of John Smith.
I can see that. I mean, I won't deny it. We love sending those hot, sexy men into the orb of our, various queens. But as you were saying, that's totally correct with Elizabeth. What's interesting about the history of it is that we're still in the early chapters of her life, and she hasn't really come into her own in terms of the Elizabeth that we remember, the explorer, the warrior queen and all that. And so with this episode, we kind of want to get that idea started for Elizabeth and really start that shift for her where rather than always being a little more on the defensive, which is what she's been up until now, she has to cling to her power and, ward off anybody who's trying to take it from her. This is her realizing, I don't just have to be on the defensive. I can go out there and explore and be, part of this world. As we have the line in the episode, the world is bigger than Europe. There's more out there for her to explore. And Hawkins, was a convenient and, yes, nice to look at way of, entering that story.
And he's kind of a party boy too, which is cool to see this side of Elizabeth, because I feel like Elizabeth is kind of the buttoned up queen, if you will. She's very defensive, as you say, as well, and always kind of like, we need to do this now. She gets very kind of angsty, I feel like, a lot of the time. So it was fun to kind of see it. She was drinking absinthe. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's what I figured that was.
Absolutely.
We might have called it distilled wormwood, but...
Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know what they think this turkey is right now. But that was a really fun scene to see them, and to see kind of Elizabeth not only, I guess, loosen up a little bit, but kind of admit that, hey, I've been this scared little girl, and I'm making the choice now to not be that anymore, and to, because it's kind of in line with what Mary's dealing with right now. Like, this man comes into her life who's kind of a bad boy, and she's like, I'm gonna go with this. And the same happened kind of with Mary.
Yeah, true Dan. True Dan. Yeah.
How conscious are you guys of Mary and Elizabeth's dichotomy, and kind of making sure that they're either equal, doing the same thing, or doing completely different things?
Well, that's one of the greatest challenges, I think, in terms of seasons 3 and 4, where we have these different parallel courts that we need to maintain, and it's always going to be Mary's story. We're always focusing on that first, but we got this amazing actress with Rachel, and she's really taking on the role of Elizabeth, and we want to make sure that we're getting her perspective on events. And so we do want to give her equal sort of time in terms of her angle on the story. And so with Hawkins, that was kind of her getting to have her own story that really had nothing to do with Mary in the end. It was that was also part of the fun of the story, was letting her step away from Mary's over, to the north of England, and she's always going to be challenging me. And it's like, or you could look to the west, to the Americas, and have, this whole other adventure.
Yeah. And this is, a lot of our fans ask this, and so this kind of ties into, we'll talk about this at length later, but you being the loyal watchman, obviously Bothwell knows the history and what's going on, but you as Adam, how did you, were you familiar with the history going into it, and to what degree?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you obviously sort of do your research as far as is possible, and then a lot falls into supposition, and then you also have to get in the minds of the writers, and there's a lovely sort of a pairing of what the writers do with what actually happened in history. So I love this whole idea of the loyal watchman, and the idea that he's entirely irritating to Mary when she first meets him. And he loves that. He loves, actually, we made a decision quite early on with the wonderful costume designers, that he was not going to be foppish or dandyish. He was going to be sort of dressed in leather and more sort of outdoorsy, and the jewellery was down to minimum. I mean, you if you check the hands on any of the men in Reign, you can tell a lot about them by the amount of jewels that they wear.
I'm never going to be able to look away from him on that show.
There's a lot of ring sort of fiddling, and I was like, I just want one ring, that's all, because it's like anyway, it's nice that he sort of subverts the whole idea of what it means to be in the presence of royalty, and I think Mary's sort of quite taken with that whole, and he was historically, he was sort of a rather sometimes brutal but absolutely patriotic sort of Scotsman who had very little time for beating around the bush. I love the way the filters of the Reign writers have worked this character out. I think he's absolutely fantastic.
And for the record, when we were planning this scene in the river, we were like, for costume design, think Orlando Bloom from Pirates of the Caribbean.
I was going to say,
that was exactly what we were going for.
And some of the fans on Twitter said, hold on, in a parallel universe, he must be related to Will Turner. So, yeah, well done.
I was feeling a little Khal Drogo in you.
Oh, yeah.
Especially last week, because you were like, you kind of, or I guess, no, the first time you got introduced to us. Was that last week or 2 weeks ago?
Last week.
Last week. Oh, yeah. Because I was like, oh, he could be a Khal. Like, he could be sitting on that throne with all these slaps and tattoos on you.
Oh, completely. That's what I was going for.
Yeah, dragons. Did you guys, when you were in the writer's room kind of starting to create who this character was going to be, were you like, he's going to be kind of swashbuckling-esque? Like, did you guys talk about that before you kind of started putting pen to paper with his dialogue, or?
Definitely. And there's a lot of build up to this because anybody who knows the history of the show knows that Bothwell was Mary's third husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, going into season 4, we're like, we're going to introduce him in this season and it has to be really good. We really need to set this guy up. And he did actually historically have a title of like Lord High Admiral or something. He actually had naval background. And so we're like, I can see this guy as a pirate. He just has that sort of independence and there's a sense of adventure about him and all that. You want that to be something that when Mary sees him, you really get that she's intrigued by this guy. He's not like anybody she's met before.
Yeah, and very different from Darnley, who is
absolutely
more foppish
and just pissing her off left and right.
Completely.
This relationship is so doomed. Was that how it was in history? Like I was very curious into how realistic it was that they just were not a real good match.
It's absolutely accurate in terms of it was not a good relationship. It started out very passionate. Historical Mary was like in love with this guy, and then she suddenly realized that he's really not somebody you want to be married to. There's sort of this sheen that came off after a point, and it just unraveled, but they're already married, and again, historically, they have this child together, and so she couldn't really do a ton about it, but she just stuck with him. And by the end of the relationship, it was like in a really bad place. So we actually toned it down a little bit. We were like, we wanted Darnley to be somewhat likable so that we could understand Mary's decision.
I think you guys did it too. Like one of the things I'm torn about is obviously, I like your character, but at the same time, the way it ends, the fact that Darnley really didn't do anything, and everyone's telling her he's a liar, he's not going to change. But in a sense, he was changing. Like, he had no cause to.
Historically speaking, he's
in the context of Reign.
In the context of Reign, yeah.
The fact that he wasn't seeing Kira, and that was the whole thing, was that he lied to me and this and that, and no, when in fact he didn't.
Yes, and that was because you can see by the end of the previous episode, Darnley he had made so many mistakes that we did want in this episode to have him show that he is capable of change, and he has actually come to care about Mary, and that, it was more of a tragic story of misunderstandings upon misunderstandings, and it's, it is a doomed relationship, but we want to be a little sympathetic to Darnley because he is, after all, Mary's, her choice for her husband, and you want her to understand that he is still a person.
I think you guys did that well this episode. It's just with his character throughout this season. He's been this, I love to hate you type of thing, but it's not a love to hate like Narcisse. It's like a love to hate because you have some type of empathy for him, and you're like, oh, I kind of feel bad for this guy, but then he's kind of such a jerk, and he's making these stupid mistakes that it's like, why time after time after time. And this was the final, I think, first episode where Darnley didn't make any mistakes this episode, but Mary made the big mistake.
Right.
Oh,
man. I know. It seems so typical of the time that love has always got a back seat when it comes to royal relationships. Obviously, it's all about something else, isn't it? And if there's love thrown into the pot, then lucky you. But really, it's not about that ever with a pairing. It's never really a love match. It's always political, isn't it?
Did Darnley, back in the day, did he know Bothwell?
Yeah, they I'm trying to remember what the actual history of it was, but on our show we're not tracking that they've met, but historically they would have known each other. Yeah. And because Bothwell was a presence around Scottish court, and so you would just know everybody. Scotland was like everybody knew each other and probably was also related to each other at some point. So
that's why they sent their kids off to like other countries. Please, Mary, don't screw up the family line with weird birth defects.
Darnley and Mary actually have one grandparent in common. That was that we don't mention that on the show, but it's actually how it went down.
I guess a little weird.
Not uncommon either, though, is it? Like amongst the royals, that's
the sad part.
Crossovers.
You remember Don Carlos from last season? He had a total of 4 great-grandparents. You should normally have 8. So that might explain some of his uniqueness.
Crazy.
One of the things that was just a stroke of brilliance was the prophecy, right? Because it ignites so many things in the sense that, going back to your notion about you can't really marry for love, well, she maybe could have, like, you were offering her the out that maybe this will work, maybe there's an alternative, but here comes this prophecy that, well, you won't be able to produce an heir, and that's the whole name of the game. In essence, it's not just kind of getting married and keeping Scotland, it's also having an heir. And then secondly, that Bash is in the picture.
Somehow.
Surprise.
He's like Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's like a Force ghost. That's what I feel like. It's like Bash. Bash just gonna appear in like Mary's dream. I was like, where is Bash?
So yeah, I love the idea that it works on so many different levels, and it just blew certainly my mind, but as I understand, a lot of the fans as well from Twitter.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot coming up with David Rizzio, which is wonderful, played by the amazing Andrew Schaefer. The fans are going to absolutely love him.
Well, I feel like you guys have kind of taken a kind of step away from the supernatural stuff, especially I don't think we've seen any of it at the beginning of this. I mean, we thought we had a little bit of it with Charles.
Charles?
No,
Come on!
but that wasn't. But we came to find out that wasn't like a supernatural thing.
Yes.
Like, you know, and that's kind of what all of these have kind of led us to, is like, oh, it was a sickness, or they're going crazy, you know. But I feel like with Bash has always been very into this stuff, like
Exactly.
gonna explore with the Druid. Are you excited as a writer to kind of come back to this magic?
It's a fun layer of this show, you know. It's, as a writer, you come on and you're like, it's a historical drama, but we can touch on magic occasionally, you know. And we wanted to step away from it for a while, just because it's easy to get sort of lost in the woods with that stuff, no pun intended. But we were hoping to bring it back in, and this seemed like the perfect moment for it, because it's sort of a turning point for Mary, you know. And we know that this is always sort of influenced her choices. Season 1 was all about, you know, the prophecy with Francis and all that, and Catherine not wanting her to be married to him. And we wanted to sort of bring that back around full circle for season 4.
Where does Bothwell sit in terms of his skepticism or belief of prophecies?
Prophecy.
Because I think that'll obviously could affect a lot of things. But
Yeah. It's interesting that we're touching on this, because as we were talking, I was just thinking how much more a part of the fabric of the society then it was to believe in magic and in the supernatural and you know, druids and nature worship and worship of the divine female and all those wonderful things which have sort of petered out or are considered bunkum or ridiculous these days. It was very much real to these characters. So to a degree, I'm sure that Bothwell gets it, but I think through life experience, my particular Bothwell is quite cynical and doesn't take anything on face value. So I think he sort of keeps scratching below the surface. So.
Well, we saw that, or one of the reasons that I think you were kind of able to reel Bothwell, I say you, but Bothwell was able to reel Mary in a little bit, was Bothwell's relationship with Mary's mom. Yeah. Is that real? Did that really happen in history? Like, he had a relationship with Mary's mom and was like kind of a... That's awesome.
It was, yeah.
This is so crazy how much is actually historical that you guys put in the show.
Oh yeah, we have tons of fun with that. And history gave us many gifts. Like, there's all sorts of crazy connections that we can draw from. But in terms of introducing Bothwell, we really did want to layer in this idea of loyalty and trust. And that Mary would have reason to believe this man has her best intentions in mind. And the connection, when we discovered this connection between Bothwell and Marie de Guise, we're like, we need to put that in somewhere.
Well, you know, I mean, the interesting part too now is Mary is not only torn in terms of a love connection, but you know, she was just forming a honesty with James, and the fact that the two of them have a disconnect there, that's a huge problem. Just, you know, that side of things in terms of who to be loyal to and who to be trustworthy of. So I like where that's going.
Yeah, we love the Mary James relationship with her brother is really wonderful, and the actor Dan Janot who plays him is fantastic.
Yeah,
so
he's awesome.
Yeah, whatever we can play with that. But there's also the fun thing that James and Bothwell historically hated each other, and so
really he couldn't stand me. Just so overprotective.
So that's totally a fun dynamic to play with, because it is all about Mary figuring out who can she trust, and if two people she trusts independently don't like each other, which is she gonna choose?
Her brother hates all the men in her life. I feel like
I wonder why.
Probably quite rightly so.
Poor Mary can't win.
I know, but she's amazing because she does. She's obviously a fascinating ruler, but also she seems to go very much with her heart on things, and she does seem to be so loyal herself to those and it's that loyalty and that sort of wearing one hearts on one's sleeve that seems to get her into so much trouble, the poor thing, historically, and in our show as well. Absolutely. But that's what makes her so relatable, I think that's why all the fans are just like, oh, we love her so much, they relate to her.
And I think that's why the show, like, why has nobody tapped into, like, there's so many things about Elizabeth that have come out throughout the years, Elizabeth I. Why has there never been a great thing about Queen Mary? And I'm so happy, well, boo that Reign is done after this season, but
it's awful.
But I feel like, I don't know, maybe it will get picked up, maybe it will by another network.
Shows have survived.
Shows have survived, fans.
From your lips to God's ears.
Hey, you gotta put it out there, right?
Exactly.
What is the age difference between Bothwell and Mary? I was trying, I didn't know how.
Yeah, is it about 10 years? Was it?
I want to say something like that. Yeah, he's definitely older.
Yeah, that's what I figured, because it came like you had this knowledge, I felt like, that you brought to him.
Yeah, and he's somewhere between her mother and her.
And
so,
her.
So I'd say approximately 10 years. Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. And that was a huge part of their relationship, and her attraction to him was that he was kind of the first man that she really was interested in and that entered her life. And that was sort of one of the things that distinguished him from everyone who came before, because everyone before that was kind of like either, it wasn't gonna happen, or they were boys, And Darnley, historically, he was 19 years old when they got married. Like, it kind of really helps you understand his actions. He was just a kid,
Yeah.
So to go from that to this fully formed, rogue.
Well, Mary must have been only in her younger 20s, right? Because she married Francis when she was 14 or 15, I believe, and then they were only married for 4 years before he passed away.
Yeah,
and she married Darnley pretty quickly.
She was like 22, 23.
Yeah.
See.
I do a lot of research.
Good job. I'm impressed.
Well done. Yeah.
I want to get your guys' opinion on this, because I am personally torn on this, because in some sense I would have loved to see Mary go through this struggle and to see how she could deal with it on her own. But then the other side of me is just rejoicing the fact that Catherine is now going to be like, okay, what do we got? Let's set an agenda. We're going to have this.
You and many others. The Twitter sphere has gone, oh, great, they're back together again. Brilliant.
I screamed out loud. When all of a sudden I see Mary crying, and then Catherine comes around the corner. I'm like, yes! She's back!
Mummy's home!
Our job is done. Their relationship is so wonderful, and when Mary went to Scotland, actually even Megan Follows was like, do I get to go meet her? Up there, we're just like, okay, we're gonna try and make that work. And when we were writing this episode, originally that last scene wasn't in it, and we knew that we were trying to get to the wedding in the next episode, and when we realized that we also wanted to get Megan into Scottish court, one of the writers was sitting there like, well, if Megan's going to be in the next episode, can't we just have her show up at the end of this one? And we all just looked at each other like, yes, she can. Let's make it happen.
We can do whatever we want in this world. Yes. She will magically appear. How long is that travel time?
From France.
That's several days.
Okay, because I always I feel like in the first couple of seasons, the timeline, I never really knew how much time has gone by or not. But I feel like the timeline is so much more condensed in this season. We're not jumping months ahead. This is days.
Yeah, it's all pretty close together.
Quite immediate, isn't it? Yeah.
Which I like.
Do you guys know? Do you guys kind of expect certain reactions like that? Did you guys know going into it this is going to get a huge reaction?
Oh yeah, I think. It's Catherine and Mary together again. We were definitely going for that. But as writers, we were just as excited to see them together. And the next episode is going to be really fun because it's the two of them against the world again. But it's also just tracking the show, we're in the fourth season of this show, and one of the few constants really is the Mary-Catherine relationship, and we want to be sure to be able to continue that even in season 4, even though they're in different countries.
Let me ask you, going into next episode, apart from the surface level changes, where would you position, how would you describe the place Mary's at mentally versus Catherine? Because obviously they're in two completely different places.
Absolutely.
And again, that's why I love it, because I think Catherine's methods of dealing with this problem are going to be vastly different than what now sort of Mary's gotten accustomed to.
Right. And episode 8 is all about Mary actually kind of doubting herself. You know, before she left for Scotland, that was kind of a trial period for her. That was all sort of, first love, coming of age story. And now that she's in Scotland, she is a woman of her own. But it's really hard when you're alone at the top trying to rule this country. And 408 was sort of her being like, should I still be making decisions only for politics and, all that? And Bothwell is the representation of her questioning herself. So Catherine is sort of there to give her that wake-up call in a way. Catherine knows that if you let yourself be vulnerable, you're going to get hurt. But also it is ultimately a Mary story. It's Catherine as a guest in Scottish court, so you're going to end up having more of a focus on the Mary story and Catherine being the support in that.
I'm going to be curious to see Catherine's opinion on Darnley. And
yes.
I don't know if we're going to get this, but all I want is a scene of Catherine just getting Darnley cornered and be like, dude, shape up! Really going mama bear on him and being like, you better count yourself lucky, you're gonna be a king. How she's done with all of her children, and I think even Mary at some point have just kind of smacked him around a little bit and been like, get your shit together, guys. I need to see that from Catherine.
That would be pretty fun. Yeah. We'll have to find out.
I know. We'll have to wait and see. I know one of the things with the episode we haven't touched on yet is Charles and Claude.
Well, even before, I think we'd be remiss not to talk about the I don't know, the nice outing on the boat and everything else, and get first-hand perspective from that.
Yeah, I remember seeing a behind-the-scenes photo that was tweeted out, and just the little boat that the camera was on, and then the guy pulling the boat. And...
Yeah, I know. What looked like a really romantic time on the river for two was, in fact, the two of us and about 18 burly men sweating under the hot sun, pushing our boat around. We had on our boat was actually mounted on a Zodiac, so we were floating on another boat, and it had these little cut-off oars. And so I was sort of pretending to really sort of heave ho. And there were times when the guy who was pulling our sort of boat along, he just, we weren't matching at all. So he'd be going rather slowly and I'd be really and this boat would hardly move. But it was amazing. See, and thanks to the writers for actually making it, because the intro scene the week before was wonderful, but actually this scene where it sort of solidifies Mary's and Bothwell's relationship, it couldn't have been more brilliant to bring two people together. A flash flood? Come on now. You can't do better than that.
Mary.
Jump in the water. Let me save you.
Let me take off your clothes.
Yeah, let me
to
help
dry
you with
them.
that bodice there. And let me just say, bodice ripping takes a very long time. Very long time. I was like, okay, yeah, I got this. They're like, can you just unlace her bodice really quick? I was like, yeah, sure. And they roll. Zip, 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 zip. Zip, 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 zip. And then I started to panic because I realised how long it was taking. I was like, zip, 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 zip. And then I was still only halfway down, and I was like, this is ridiculous. This is, yeah.
So it does take two servants, really.
It really does. I think they must have scheduled their lovemaking in back in the day. They were like, right, 2:30 on Wednesday afternoon. Have much fewer clothes on.
Or they just wouldn't take any of their clothes off.
None of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
You just can't at that point.
But it was amazing how the whole surge was realised as well, because not only was it CGI with all that water coming toward us.
That was CGI.
That was CG. But when we were in the water, they did this array. It was amazing. Of half the river seemed, there was half the river, and then there were 5 outboard motorboat engines all facing in the same direction, and they switched all those on at the same time, and it just frothed all the water up, and we had to sort of swim through it. So it was...
How deep was that water? I was very curious.
Yeah, it came to about here when I went in, and then you sort of caught in the mud, and then it was amazing, and we had all those clothes on, and it was a real, it was
really fun to watch that when we got the footage, and it was like, oh man, it feels like we're in a movie, it's just out in the wilderness, and
we literally had hikers up on the hills above who had all stopped, and they were all sitting there watching the whole thing. It felt like very much.
I would do that too, of course. If I knew it was rain, I'd be like, okay, how can I get down there? And who's the first AD? Who do I need to talk to get on set? Maybe Megan's on. Megan, hey!
Over here.
Like Adam.
Get over here.
Yes. That's
a lot of
awesome.
fun.
Was there any other kind of fun, because we've seen 2 episodes with you now, any other fun stories you have of what we've seen so far?
Of what you've seen so far.
Or even of those kind of interactions that we saw.
Yeah, well, it's really sort of on the spot stuff with Andrew Shaver, who plays David Rizzio. He's sort of just a natural comedian. He's absolutely so funny, and he studied at Lecoq for a while, and he's an amazing actor. But he literally had us in stitches of laughter, and it was helped along quite substantially by the fact that he's wearing this magnificent hairpiece. He just looked like a rock star. Like when he was at lunch and he hadn't done anything yet, and he looked like a complete rock star. I was like, holy moly, that's the hair that one needs on this show, right there. And we were talking, but when he pitched up on set for his actual scene, they'd given him this cape as well, and he turned into a hobbit from Middle Earth. So that was really delicious for me and Addie, because we thought he was just going to rock star us out of the scene. But he's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's a lot. And speaking of her, a lot of fans have been kind of asking, what was it like to work with her?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, the star of the show.
Phenomenal. I was I'm so lucky to be able to sort of have scenes and act with Addie, because she's a young actress, and she's helming this show, and it's been 4 seasons, and she does it with an amazing amount of dexterity and an amazing amount of grace, and also warmth for new cast coming in. It's often hard if you're entering a cast that's pre-established to enter in and do it comfortably, and she was reaching out ahead of us even arriving. So was Will, by the way, Darnley. And when we got there, she couldn't have been sweeter, and she's a sort of a consummate pro, and she's got a very acerbic sense of humour. Like, you might not know this from watching her on the show, but like she's very bright, and she's very sort of cynical and acerbic sometimes, but hilarious with it. So we just laughed a lot. And then in between, the fans probably like us, in between takes when we were out on the river, everyone would be setting up and, doing all the things that the crew does so well. And Addie would just sort of start singing. not to anybody in particular, but I would just be like, oh. Yeah, she sort of serenaded no one in particular, but I happened to be sitting in the boat, so I assumed it was for me.
I would have expected you to start singing,
just
around the riverbed, like something while you're doing that.
I should have, but I was just mesmerised, so I had nothing.
I would imagine it's pretty hard to kind of do anything with Adelie Kane in the room.
She's wonderful.
My question to you, and you could even answer this too if you've watched previous seasons and stuff. Yeah. You've written so many different scenes with Queen Mary and other men. Mm-hmm. Who is well, first, couple questions. First of all, who do you think she has the best chemistry with? And who is your favorite kind of man to write in a scene with Mary?
Well, I will start with saying that I only joined in season 3, so unfortunately I missed out on all of the, cool Francis stuff from the first 2 seasons and came in right in time to kill him off. So, but the experience actually that's a really great question, because when I came on board in season 3, that was really after Francis, when she was just going through a laundry list of men, basically. It was just like, who's next? And the part of the fun as a writer is trying to make each and every one different, and interesting and all that. But I mean, you can't beat Mary and Francis. There's just something really special about that, and it's the magic of the first love and all that. So, unfortunately, I didn't get to write those scenes though. But this season, I think it is a more mature love story, a love triangle between her and Darnley and Bothwell, and that, I mean, there's something really. There's great drama in that. That was really fun to write for.
Did you do a chemistry read before you got the role?
I didn't actually. I'd read a number of times for other characters over the last couple of years, and they'd always come back and said, "We love him, but this is just not the right part for him." And I'd be like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And then finally, just recently, they sort of came and said, "Hey, listen, we want to do another audition with Adam," and I was like, yeah, really? You're just gonna sort of say, yeah, but it's not for him, and I was a bit sort of lax about it. So I just thought, okay, cool. So I just pulled on a set of jeans and a t-shirt, and I just tied up my hair just very loosely, and I just walked in sort of unshaven, and I just started cracking jokes with casting, and we seemed to get on famously. We read the scene a couple of times, and that seemed it. And I just walked out, and I thought, well, that's it. They're going to call up, and they think, he's okay, and he's not going to get it. And then it came through. And I was just like, what do you mean? I didn't even try this time.
That's why it works so well.
That's why it works so well. Like, to all the actors out there, you have to be relaxed, and there's really something to that, like in your meetings.
And you never know, because like obviously you've impressed them before, so for them to get to bring you back into the room is a big deal.
Yeah,
you know, more than once, obviously. So
no, bless them. They were trying to get me on the show, and thankfully it didn't work out those times because those were much smaller parts. So I'm
and
really
this is
grateful.
series regular.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So, thank you very much.
It all worked out. It was meant to be.
Perfectly, yeah.
Now, as a writer, are you guys kind of like excited to see, like, do you get kind of the casting announcements as soon as like they cast somebody, and then are you guys like, oh, that's exactly how I thought of them, or there's sometimes you're like, no, how is he gonna do that, or she gonna do that?
It's a really tricky thing, casting. I mean, you get so many people, and you usually have a preconception of who you want the person to be, and sometimes you'll be surprised. But in the case of Bothwell, and actually also in this episode, Hawkins, when we got together and watched dailies, you know, as a writer's room, and in both cases we're like, that's the guy! Like, we just kind of saw it, you know. Our two ponytailed hot men are going to be in this episode.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I love that you guys are like bringing the man buns back.
Oh yeah, single-handedly Reign.
I can't believe you didn't do a chemistry read, because like even in that very first scene that we saw you and Mary get introduced, I was like, oh my god, like there's gonna be love here. There's so much chemistry. Great. So yeah, that's very impressive.
That was the first time that Addie and I met, was that day, and just before that scene.
Oh wow!
Like literally, hello. We just started cracking jokes immediately, and I didn't. Maybe it's the English in me, but we don't. You know, we just say completely what we feel most of the time. Like, there's no sort of like pulling any punches. So she said something a bit snarky to me, so I was like completely snarky back, and then we thought, oh, you're all right, and then we both got on like a house on fire.
And she's an Aussie, right?
Yeah, she's an Aussie. Yeah, so we both like, you know, we just started like, so it was great from the get go.
In terms of that, obviously, you know, through history, we know that he's going to be her third husband. But did you guys sort of talk with them about the fact that, hey, next episode we're going to try to progress this pretty fast, because next episode we got this boat scene coming up, so have a little bit chemistry here, don't act like you guys aren't going to know each other for, you know, another year?
I mean, it's kind of a game of telephone. I didn't actually get to speak to you directly, but that was definitely part of the intention with this episode. It really is. This is going to be the Mary Bothwell story, and it's the beginning of a romance. You know, we want there to be chemistry here, and it is coming at a time where her relationship with Darnley is kind of falling apart. So you know that she's kind of more receptive than she would be otherwise to that kind of interaction. Yeah.
I loved it. I love it. Well, we have 11 minutes. I was like, how much time do we have?
Let's move over to France. Let's talk about Claude real fast, because I thought that was an interesting storyline. It, you know, in terms of screen time, wasn't as prevalent, but that's okay. I think very, very, you know, I mean, I don't know. You as ladies, I mean, I thought it was very romantic what Luke did with the stars and everything.
I was taking good move, bro.
Yeah, right. I love Luke, and I thought, I really hope you guys don't turn his character evil, or he's gonna backstab him. Can we just have one character that is just a sweetheart, like, because I genuinely think he's just a sweetheart, and going to Charles, and I felt like that was so genuine, and I hope it's genuine.
Yeah, no, and again, just we have such a great cast to pull this off for us, but that character Luke has actually been it's so much fun to write for him. My writing partner and I were really involved in helping shape that character, and for our episode, we did really want just, because that's so rare on this show, just a nice guy, you know, and he's just doing nice things. This was also about him differentiating himself from Narcisse, you know, because we've had that whole Narcisse is the great manipulator, so of course if he's going to marry off his son, he has ulterior motives, but what if that son was generally a good guy? Like, how would that pan out? And here we get to see Luke kind of act on his own independently of his father and just do a nice thing for Claude. And I'll also just have a shout out to my writing partner Bowie, who came up with the star projector idea. Unfortunately, she's not here to take credit for it, so I will.
Really beautiful.
But yeah, that was it.
Was beautiful. Was this, who directed this episode?
Fred Gerber.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, if this would have been like an all female writers and then
Oh,
female
if
director,
only.
that's such a cool. But it was, I really like this episode. So where do you hope like Luke goes Like, what do you hope? Do you think like Luc and Claude are gonna kind of find love? Do you hope they find love?
I would hope so. I mean, they are married now, and unfortunately Leith is out of the picture, so we're, you know, moving forward. We kind of... What if there was a relationship that lasted? That would be a very interesting thing on this show, because it happens so rarely.
And I feel like those two, well, obviously, like, Claude, I feel like, has just been... she's just such a, like, she's just been passed around, I feel like, her entire life, and always just been told what to do and never really been able to do what she wants to do. So if she can, like, I know she was told to marry this guy, but if then she can find peace and love within it, that would be really, really nice, guys.
I agree.
We always have the exit clause.
Well, and I need to give a shout out to the casting directors again for, like, Luc
Yes.
looks so much like Narcisse.
Right? It's
and he's
kind
so
of eerie.
great. It's weird.
We totally thought that too. We were like,
great.
we didn't realize until we saw him on camera, like, wait a minute.
It's so perfect. Did Narcisse have a son in real life?
Well, he's a fictional character, so
Oh, yeah, okay.
we can make up whatever we want, but we, you know, the history has, like, we go through so much story that sometimes we have to go back ourselves and be like, what did we say about this character? But when he was first introduced in season 2, there's the implication that he has multiple children from multiple marriages, so it's just something we drew from when we were writing that storyline.
Smart writers. Like, let's just make sure, like, we can take anything from the world
Exactly.
of Narcisse.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. And in terms of helping Charles, this is, I want to get your perspective, because this storyline, you know, we were, Keetin and I, kind of speculating, is this going supernatural in the beginning? And obviously it's not. But, and I thought we were kind of gone away from it in the good sense, but now here he comes, sort of the same as always.
There is no end to the troubles of Charles. Well, this is actually kind of vaguely inspired from history, just in that Charles the King, the real king, was a very troubled person, and he kind of experienced multiple traumas, and towards the end of his life just kind of went crazy. And we don't want to go all the way to that, but we want to portray what it's like to be so young and to be put in power, and what it might do, you know, psychologically to you. And obviously we have the fictional story of the Red Knights and all that, but, you know, using that as a way to tell a story about a really young king who simply wasn't prepared for that job. And sort of getting a sense of how his family may or may not help him through that.
Well, Henry's even younger.
Yes.
But Henry's
more
already
family
positioning
to that,
him
yeah.
to-
Wait, so Henry's younger, but Henry's at war.
Yes.
Is that okay? So what are the ages of Charles? Like, what are you guys in the room like thinking?
They're really close in age.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, we're playing that, which was historically accurate. I think they were like a year apart or something. They had just lots of kids back in the day. They would just pump them out.
Well, and Catherine, talk about like strong woman. Like, childbirth was like the number one cause of death, I think, for women back in the day,
yeah,
and she
so
like popped out
dangerous.
how many of them? Like,
A
girl.
lot. Yeah, no, it's really impressive, and again, crazy when you're reading about it. You're like, I don't think I would have survived in the 16th century.
No.
But yeah, it is. People would go to war when they were really young. You know, you just stick a sword in a kid's arm, and they would go off and fight. And so, but obviously, if you're in a royal family, you have lots of buffer, you know, and people protecting
You're not
you
on
and
the
all
front
that. Yeah,
lines,
exactly.
right?
You're not right in the middle of it quite yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so curious to see where this is going, especially, like, I mean, depending on how it goes, a lot of things can happen, because, you know, Catherine is over there, and now, I mean, I like Narcisse, I trust Narcisse enough, but at the same time, he's not...
They got you.
You know.
What's he gonna be up to while Catherine's away?
Exactly.
Have to find out.
You know, and it's interesting to see the Luc and Narcisse relationship, because obviously Luc doesn't necessarily 100% trust his father, but at the same time, is this the type of information that he would bring up to Narcisse, and to see how they can handle, you know, Luc would try to handle it, I think, peacefully. Narcisse just, okay, we're doing it.
Yeah.
I feel like Luc might, this is more prediction, but I feel like after Luc sees Charles in this state, he doesn't obviously want to worry Claude. So I feel like and Catherine's not there, I feel like this is absolutely setting him up to go talk to Narcisse about it. And then Narcisse is going to be like, oh crap, Catherine's gone. Let me just take care of this. You know, like that's, I feel like what Narcisse is about to do for next episode. And then Luke's gonna get in trouble because Claude's gonna be like, "You brought your dad into it? Oh my God! I trusted you. You bring me the stars." Like,
Well, yeah, that'll be interesting, and certainly the most interesting character right now, because we just don't know anything about her apart from she's the spawn of Satan, is Nicole.
She's up to no
She's a
good.
complicated girl, so complicated.
she reminds me of that girl that Henry brought in. God, what was that? Season 1, I guess, because Henry,
That's when he was alive.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. He reminds me of that
The Queen of the
peasant
Bean.
girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, kind of her mixed with the girl that Bash was sleeping with for a bit that like gave him those creepy visions.
Yeah, Delphine. Well, we were, we actually, as a room, we were getting flashbacks to that. Again, I wasn't there for that, but just thinking about the character, like, this reminds us of the Queen of the Bean storyline. But I will say Nicole's a little more, she has a little softer side to her, and she's a little more industrious about her approach to it. So I think we're definitely getting some fun stuff out of that storyline coming up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the just because it was one of the preview scenes when the episode came out was the scene between her and Narcisse with Nicole basically flirting with him, and he's like, well, I need you to do something for me, and we're just like, that dynamic is so much fun to play with. Just it's so typical of French court, you know, where everyone's just kind of manipulating each other, and the manipulators are trying to manipulate each other, and that's really what we're playing with those characters.
When I love that, like Nicole is like, so I feel like my family needs to have more space. Narcisse's like, I was thinking the same thing, you know? I was actually had a place in mind for you. I was like, yeah, this is so great because that's how
Yes.
manipulation works.
I see you and I raise you.
Yeah, that
Exactly.
was so well written because it's like
Yeah.
you're making them think that they had the idea so that you can get them to do exactly what you want.
That's the trick.
That's it.
Look at that.
Which
I
makes
love
us
it.
wonder, like, what type
Yeah,
of
what-
personality do you have that you know to write
I know,
things
this-
like that, Erika?
It's totally made up. Totally.
See, that's what Narcisse would say.
Do you have any more episodes this season that you have written?
No, unfortunately, this was.
Aw.
Oh no!
But honestly, I will say this show, the writers' room is so collaborative. We all like help each other out all the time, so it really is a group effort. So I still feel invested in the entire season. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
Awesome.
Excellent.
So good.
Well, speaking of sort of moving on to new episodes, and you know, I don't think this gives too much away if you did answer it, but do you and Catherine interact for Bothwell?
Me and Catherine, we don't. The reason that I paused there for a second is because obviously Megan directs some episodes, so I see her face and we're on set. But no, we're not. We don't.
And what is she as a director? What is it?
She's absolutely wonderful, and I think part of the reason for that is obviously that she's an actor as well.
Yeah.
So she gets it obviously from a technical standpoint, but also from our side. So she'll often like just give us a little more space to play a bit or to try a few more times than you might do if it was just a pure director.
Mm-hmm.
But she's amazing fun and incredibly astute at what she does, and I was just talking to her the other night, and you know she's added this wonderful other string to her bow. She's not just an actress, and now she's getting employed as a director around town, which
really
is
awesome.
phenomenal.
That's
It's
awesome.
so great, you know.
And I saw you guys got together over social media to watch this most recent episode.
That's right, yeah.
Do you guys try to do that every week?
We do. We try to every Friday if we can make it. We all sort of bung in somebody's household and grab pizzas and beers and stuff and like live tweet together. And it's
I'm just saying, I'll bring the beer.
you come on over.
Next time, I don't know. I might be crashing.
That would be
but
amazing.
It would be like the rain geek extraordinaire. Like,
Awesome, you gotta
come. Gosh. I'll bring board games because I was like, well, we can't just play rain or watch rain. We gotta play
Exactly.
board
We've got
games.
to
or something, like-
interact on a sort of real level, not just
Let's
with our
become
phones.
friends. I get the episode good. Can we ask him what's coming up for
Sure,
them? Awesome.
absolutely.
So, Rain aside, obviously, hopefully some other network will pick up the show and we'll continue. Or, as Megan said, maybe we'll get a spinoff, which would be amazing.
Oh wow! I didn't know she
that'd
said
be
that,
amazing.
but that's pretty cool.
You got to
Great
put it
idea.
out in the universe.
Am I invited?
Do you guys have anything coming up outside of Rain that you guys want to talk about or that you guys can talk about?
Do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. My writing partner, Bo, and I are actually on to our next job, so I will give you a hint. we are on Star Trek Discovery. So
That's awesome!
That is
we went
amazing.
from the past to the future. We don't do present time.
And wait, and that's with Sci-Fi or?
That's at actually CBS All Access,
Oh, okay,
which is,
okay.
do you know The Good Fight is
Yes.
their first show, so
Yeah.
this will be the next one, yeah.
Awesome!
So cool.
Congratulations.
That's really huge. Congrats.
Yeah, we're really excited
What
about
a
it.
great like world to get to. Wait,
Right.
is it the thumb out
You're
or the
doing
thumb
it.
in?
Yeah, you got
You're doing
it.
it. You got it.
Yeah,
Right?
you can
Okay.
be Vulcan.
Live long and prosper, people.
That's awesome.
What about for you?
For me, I am currently playing Jesus.
Hot Jesus.
Now you're gonna make me blush. But I can't really say what it is yet. But
Okay.
I can say that. I can
Okay.
say that. So
Fair
I'll
enough.
let you know as more.
I
as more
would
comes
watch
out.
that.
I would watch you as Jesus. Oh, well, and it's probably like you know Jesus in like adult Jesus, obviously.
Yeah.
So I wonder if I don't know. I'd be curious to see if you had to do a crucifixion scene because that has to be hard as an actor to
Yeah,
do any type of thing like that.
Yeah, look, I you know, Jim Caviezel doing all that for the Passion. I was just in bits, but yeah, I haven't had to do anything like that yet, so we'll see. But really, that blew me away. Yeah.
Well, happy
Very
Easter.
Happy Easter. Yes, exactly. Happy on that note.
He has risen
Happy
next week. Awesome.
Any final thoughts that you want to just say to the fans, while you have the opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, this obviously is the last season of Reign, so I will just say that if you are familiar at all with history, there's a lot of potential for juicy storytelling, and there are a couple episodes that I think are just turned out really fantastic, so definitely keep watching.
Yeah,
I would absolutely add to that and say precisely right. It's so juicy this season. There is, truth is so often stranger than fiction, and really like what comes up historically is phenomenal. And between the characters, so I encourage you all just to keep watching, and I'm sure you're going to love it.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
I like to ask anybody that I interview here this question is because you have to put it out in the universe.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of awesome things coming up, obviously, but dream kind of role or thing to work on.
Oh my gosh,
Put it out in the universe.
James Bond.
Ooh,
You are
good
right.
one.
Yeah. There we go.
Look, Dan Craig, he's complaining. He's saying it hurts his body. If he's not up for it, I'm up for it.
Well, you've been part of the video games already.
I have. I've already
you've
been his
kind of-
body.
You've been in there.
It's been my body running around with his face on. How weird is that? Like,
That is weird.
Yeah.
Do you play the video games?
I've never played it. No.
Oh my gosh,
no,
you have
yeah.
to like do a video of you playing.
Like a Twitch session of me playing myself as Daniel Craig. I mean, it's so meta and weird. Like, yeah.
Awesome. Well, James Bond and
I'm gonna be honest, Star Trek is my dream job.
Yeah. Manifested.
Yes. Dreams come true, guys.
That's amazing.
do you ever want to get into film writing?
Definitely. I think that's more of a long-term goal for me.
Okay.
I mean, TV is just so much fun because you get to really live with the stories and the characters for so long, but movies have, there's a different angle to it where it's just one big story and you get to hopefully get like larger budget, so you get to do really cool stuff with more action-y, and that's what I would want to do. But for now, I am very, very happy at Star Trek. So.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, it was an absolute pleasure having you guys, I'm sure, for the fans as well.
thanks for
So
having
thank
us.
you guys for coming. One last time, where can people follow you guys?
I'm at Griffin Metal on Twitter and at Erika Lippoldt on Instagram.
And I'm at A Croasdell on Twitter and at Adam Croasdell on Instagram.
And I'm at Keetin Marchi all across the board.
And follow us here at AfterBuzz TV. And the Reign writers have been so great to us in lining up these guests. So
Yeah, thank
hopefully we'll have.
you.
Thank you guys for all you've been doing. It's
you
awesome.
guys are
Thank
awesome.
you.
Really awesome. Thanks for having us.
This is
Of
such
course,
an honor.
we and if things work out well, perhaps we'll look forward to a season-ending kind of recap.
With the whole group or something. I don't know. It'd be
Yeah,
amazing.
that'd be fun. So you guys are
That'd
all
be
welcome to
awesome.
join.
Thank
Yeah,
you very
awesome.
much.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Come back anytime.
All right, so we're looking forward to episode 8 next week, right?
No,
Nine.
Nine.
Nine is next week.
This is 8. 9 is next week.
is 9.
Got it.
And Catherine's back with Mary. I'm so stoked.
So much to
Love
look
me.
forward to. Thank you guys as always. Write your comments down below. And that's it. We'll see you guys next week for another episode of Reign. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
From From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.